everyone, and welcome to another new movie review. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince!
Today, Vince and I are going to do a non-spoiler review on Monsters University. Roar!
You're never going to make it.
Oh. You need to study harder. Oh. Vince...
Would that be minor spoilers?
Vince, it's funny because I have... we just summed up the entire character arc of both major characters in the first 30 seconds of our video. Monsters University, of course, the new Pixar film for this year, it's the prequel to Monsters Incorporated, and I gotta tell you, man, Monsters Incorporated is one of my favorite Pixar films. It's in my top 3. It may be... I forget what I said when we did that podcast with Dicer back, a year or two ago, but, I think it's in my top 3. It might be my favorite.
Yeah, I think my top, at least 2 of my top ones are Ratatouille and Monsters, Inc. And maybe Wall-E or Up.
You were really into Ratatouille.
I still love Ratatouille. You see, Monsters, Inc. holds a special place in my heart because of Billy Crystal and John Goodman. I've always loved John Goodman, and I really like Billy Crystal.
I
just think
Billy Crystal never gets any kind of work anymore, so it's fun it's fun when he shows up in anything.
I think that John Goodman is perfect for a buddy film in general.
Yeah, good point.
I think that guy just works well, and now he's kind of taken, in his words, he's taken whatever work he finds. He doesn't feel like he can turn down an offer, so lo and behold, it works out perfectly for Pixar's Monsters University.
I like dual protagonist movies that really work. I love it when we get a paralleling character arc for two characters where they're entirely different and their character arcs are entirely different, and then you get to the end and you find out that they've basically had the same arc. And they've basically learned more or less the same things, but also not. Monsters, Inc. had that. Monsters University also has that, but it's not retread. It doesn't feel like the same character arc.
Well, I think a large part of that is that it's not a buddy film. It's 2 characters. I mean, you know where the ending's going to be.
It's rivals that become friends. Right. Is the kind of arc, yeah.
And that really surprised me. There were some things that through the movie I stopped and said, yeah, I know it's coming, but that's because I started watching the movie.
Sure.
You feel yourself stopping at certain points throughout this movie and going, oh, it's not going to be what I thought it was. And then it turns out to be not what you thought it was. I just went, that's smart. And then it happens, and I go, yeah, like they completely fooled me with trailers and things.
And classic Pixar, if Pixar has, and not that all of their movies manage to do this, obviously I like some more than others, but if Pixar, if their movies of their highest quality, of their highest standards, have a formula, it's exactly what you're talking about. And this has that in spades. And Monsters Incorporated had that too. I'm gonna say this. First of all, I was in love with this movie. I was in love with it. And I'm gonna say this. I don't know that it isn't exactly as good as the first one. I think they're like this. I think they are the same kind of good. I'm going to have a hard time not watching together now, I think. I think they are right level with each other.
I would almost argue that this is just slightly better.
I might get there.
That's the thing. I kind of walked into, and maybe I think it's just slightly better because I walked into this movie kind of expecting to like it less because,
it's a prequel.
We can talk about this because obviously we will. That it's a prequel and it's a college-oriented movie. Well, not oriented, but it's a movie set in college. And I thought, there are very select college movies that I care about because I just don't have that mystique that people do for my alma mater. But it doesn't pull on the heartstrings for me like some other subjects do. So I kind of
see why it does for some people.
Yeah, I can see why it does.
I think a movie can make you feel that for the film, even if you don't have that in real life. Maybe I think it's possible.
It didn't even happen in this movie.
Oh, okay, it didn't. Okay.
But what I thought was interesting. Now you said something right after the movie, which I thought was very worth mentioning on the video, which is that it's not. See, most college movies are oriented towards the college crowd. Yeah. So those movies are made for people in college, whereas this movie is made for the family, and it's just set in a college, and it has that feeling, that energy that's supposed to come through. Now, they have these moments in the movie where that's supposed to be pulling on your heartstrings, and it didn't for me, but what I thought was so interesting about it was that it was a satire of college movies at the same time as being a family movie, and I thought that was such a positive thing, and it pulled on college stereotypes without having to, or even archetypes, however you wish to say it, I don't know.
Sure.
Without having to belabor some of the more disgusting parts of college. And
it helps that it's a family film and they don't want to go that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was so.
Isn't it amazing that we have
clever?
Isn't it amazing that we have a film set in college that at no point falls back on like burp or fart jokes?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's Pixar. They don't usually do that, so I would not expect that they would go there. But boy, if they were going to do it in any movie, this would have been the one.
You know, what's funny is that I kind of feel like they went that way, not astoundingly, but I feel like they went that way with Brave a little bit. But
see, I missed that. I still need to watch that.
Yeah, it's okay. This one, it was so much. The timing was perfect. It was very clever, and it was very cute. And it made people, and it made their characters endearing, and it made some of their characters specifically, really adorable. Just losers that you root for. And that's what's so cool about that movie.
Something this movie reminds me of a little bit is Harry Potter, because because it does that kind of fun thing of what would it be like, and I always like this. What would it be like to have a school all about learning something that people don't usually have a school to learn, you know? Mm-hmm. And so Harry Potter did it with magic. This did it with scaring, and this was a satire of college in the same way Harry Potter was a satire of high school, or of prep schools. They both kind of have that, but then there's kind of a whimsical nature to it, because you see a lot of unusual things and funny things that are recognizable but different, because it's about scaring, it's about monsters. And there's another one of those movies. Pixar always does this best out of all the animation houses, and I think even still today, where you're going to pick up on stuff every time you see it. 4 or 5 times watching this, you're still going to notice really, really cool details. Because there's so much going on all the time.
I noticed a reference to one of my favorite college movies, which that's kind of not saying much, but it's one of them that I like, and there's a very select group that I enjoy. But I noticed a little reference, and I thought, oh, there it is. And then I didn't notice any others, so I kind of feel like either I'm pointing at something and they didn't actually make a reference, mm-hmm. Or maybe I missed a bunch of other stuff. So this is really going to get another view from me.
Yeah, and I'm also not sure that they were trying for that so much as the more generalized kinds of references. And here's the thing: it's. I said earlier, and you mentioned it, that it's not really a college movie; it's a movie set there. And Pixar does this again. Their best films they do this with. WALL-E is not. It's a science fiction film, but it's not a science fiction film. It's not a film for science fiction buffs. That's the setting. Space is it's not a space film. Space is the setting, and they did that here with the whole college thing.
I really enjoyed this movie.
One thing that I thought was really cool was the balance of characters that we know already with new characters. And I feel like a lot of the new characters, in fact, in my opinion, all of the new characters are up to the caliber of fun as the characters in the first film. They all feel like they fit in the same universe. They all belong there. And they didn't do anything, in my mind, with any of the. And I don't want to give away what characters they use, but I will say there are several characters from Monsters Inc. that we get to see in this movie, besides just the couple that you know already. And they could have been obnoxiously wink wink nod nod about them, and they weren't. There were a couple major wink wink nod nod moments that I really liked and was totally fine with and kind of wanted them. I'm sorry, go ahead, and then I'm going to ask you a question.
I feel like this movie, the reason it does that so well is that it's not just like, let's make a prequel to this movie. It takes its universe and says, well, what things make sense? Who would reappear, who would not? When would they reappear, when wouldn't they? And
or appear the first time. It's a prequel, but yeah.
Yeah, indeed. But they use people that make sense, and not only that, but some of the more significant characters they use in clever ways. They bring people back, and I kind of felt like they would reprise some of their roles and be very, very much the same thing they were in the first movie. But this one, it says, well, let's step back a minute and see what could potentially, what could be the genesis of the guy in that movie, and we'll use that in this movie.
They didn't rely too heavily on the assumption that you've already seen the other movie in that universe, and that's very important for a prequel. That's what most of them get wrong, and why I usually don't like them. There are a couple of moments that clearly are supposed to be cool and clever because you already know these characters. There are a couple of those. I have no problem with that. That is there, especially within the last 10 minutes. There are 2 of them, almost back to back, 2 big kind of this is for the fans kind of moments where here's a character you thought you might not see, and then here's another one. They do that. Besides those, though, I would argue, and this is the question I wanted to ask you, I would argue that this is perfectly watchable without the other film, and I would also argue that if you've never seen the other film, they might watch well back-to-back watching this one first.
You know, I was just thinking that.
It might work. You might be able to watch these movies linearly.
I think, and of course we've seen the other movie, but of course, but
so it's a little hard to say because our perceptions, we know these characters, but yeah.
There's only a couple things in the movie that would really ruin any surprise having watched them a prequel to original.
There is one big one at the end, I'll say that.
And minus those moments. And I mean, I suppose if you're a small child, you might not even pick up on it.
No, sure.
But minus those moments, these movies seamlessly, I think, attach. I think that they just fit perfectly together.
This is maybe going to sound like an odd point, but another thing I really appreciated was there's nothing about this that feels too contemporary as a opposing to the other film. What I mean is the other movie is almost a decade old. Maybe it is a decade old. I think it was 0203. It was 10 years ago, and this movie feels not just like the same universe that it's seamless and that you feel like you're back in the same place. The animation is similar. It looks like the same world and all of that. But I mean, like, there's nothing that contemporizes it where it's for those of us that are 10 years older. It's still a timeless film like Monsters, Inc. was. I don't feel like it has anything in it that's to 2013 as opposed to 2003, if that makes any sense at all. And that's something I've really liked, again, about some of the best Pixar films. I feel like the Toy Story films pulled that off for the most part also. This one even more so. It feels like, what I'm saying is, this movie could have come out 3 years later.
Yeah. You know, I think really the thing that does that is that it's set in its own universe and that it doesn't have to rely on anything else. It can be whatever they want it to be. And also them pulling on the archetypes of college figures, you know, frats and sororities and all that. What they're really doing is pulling on things from our culture that are timeless, that never go away.
At colleges, you're always going to get the kids the non-popular kids. They're trying to fit in with the popular kids, and you're going to get the bullies that pick on everybody. You're going to get the kids that are in the popular fraternity, but they're still trying to impress everyone there, and all of those stereotypes are there, And they're hilarious. Vince and I, together, I want to say we were laughing on average every 3 minutes or so.
There's so much in that movie. I mean, there's things that are just little that, I feel like this movie needs a second watch because there's stuff that's happening in the periphery. So over here as opposed to right here. So there's things that...
One thing I thought was really fun was that there were several moments where you would point at something on the screen trying to catch my attention, and I didn't notice it yet. And then a couple minutes later, I would go, "Oh, Vince, do you see that?" I noticed that. There were some fun things. One of them is that Nathan Fillion's in this movie.
I didn't realize until he pointed it out, and I went, "Oh."
He plays the leader of the popular frat, and I was just like, oh my god, that is Nathan Fillion.
I feel like Nathan Fillion's one of those guys that will never be typecast because his type is almost everything. He's just he's extremely well suited for anybody who's outspoken.
They really kept impressing me also with kind of the, I don't want to say I almost said lore. I guess the culture of the place. Just like I enjoy, the lore of a supernatural thing where we go to another planet and a world and we get all the politics and those sorts of things. We get exactly that here with this college. I really enjoyed the architecture. I thought that the college was stunning. How they decided to plan it. It was clear that these people made maps and they know exactly where everything is and what happens. And I'd love to see a book of all that, because I bet it's really fascinating. And then they have this thing where without giving too much away, where one of the things the big thing that kind of holds the whole movie together is this kind of epic scare games thing that the college does. And there are, of course, several rounds to the scare games, and each challenge I thought was cooler and more clever than the last. Every time they did a new challenge, I really enjoyed seeing that, and I found myself really invested in it.
Yeah, and that's stuff you've seen in things like Revenge of the Nerds and all that. So,
yeah, you've always got that sort of thing. And again, it's like Harry Potter 4. It's just like that, except that the last one didn't let me down like it did in that movie as opposed to the book. Anyway,
I think what's interesting about Pixar in general, but particularly in this movie, they had a lot of clever jokes along the way, but they weren't just funny; they were contextualized.
Yes.
They used their universe, and that's what's so impressive about Pixar movies, is that they tend to say, let's not just insert a joke here. Let's use our universe and make a joke within our universe about our universe, and that's what's so cool about Monsters University, and I would say Monsters Inc. as well.
A lot of the time, a movie like this, I will talk about the balance of the story with the humor of the drama and the weight of what's going on versus the comedy. Something like this, I'm not even thinking about that. Like it just all fits together seamlessly, and I'm not even thinking, okay, what's the comedy? What are the jokes in relation to percentage-wise, in relation to the interpersonal stuff that I'm supposed to be invested in, because that's all part of the universe. Mm-hmm. And it's just there. And again, Monsters Inc. did that perfectly, and this is just... I feel like this is just kind of an extension of that movie. I mean, I feel like they're two distinctively different movies, but I'm just saying that, like, it feels like the exact same team. It mostly is, I think, but I don't know. I was just thoroughly impressed with it. And I also felt like for a lot of the time, what prequels... The problem with prequels is that they are too much about getting us to the start of the next thing. Mm-hmm. This actually does that. I don't mind saying that. This actually does kind of do that, get us to the start of the next thing, but it's not about that. And I feel like there was a story here.
Yeah.
And I think I will like Monsters, Inc. better actually knowing that story. And that's what made it worth doing.
There are moments along this movie where you expect certain things to happen, which would be just cheesy and the easy way out to do, and they don't take the easy way out. That's what I find so interesting about it. Yeah, I don't want to belabor that, or I don't want to belabor it. I don't want to go into that because that might ruin the movie. But,
we don't want to ruin your
choices
that's
throughout.
Great. Any last... Obviously, I'm recommending the film.
Yeah, me too. Go see it. Or I'll show up at your house and scare the crap out of you.
We have doors. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks very much for watching our new movie review on Monsters University, and I'll be back with either Vince or Brandon or somebody next week with another new movie review. Don't know what we're going to see yet. It depends on what's coming out next weekend and what's going on in our lives. We may do one on World War Z. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to see that. That might happen. Anyway, we'll see. Anyway, but we'll see you next time. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince!